September 23rd. It is the last Monday of the MLB regular season, and this is the start of the end for real slates. I think we've only got a couple of sizable playoff slates, maybe like 3-4 games. But this will be a 5-gamer joined by Adam. Adam, how's it going, man? How was the weekend?
Good. Had a nice, relaxing DFS free weekend. Went golfing with a friend, so had a good time. How was your weekend?
It was good. Made a little bit of money in NFL. Nothing huge, but can't complain. First couple weeks did not go my way, so it was nice to get back in the win column for week 3, and I'm excited to play some more MLB. Last week of it for me. I don't know how much MLB playoffs I'm going to play. Do you usually play those slates?
No, I don't. I wrote articles for them last year, so I researched them, but I've never been big into one game slates. I'm slowly getting into them for football because I know people do really well in them.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah, I haven't played them before.
yeah. I love the showdown slates for NFL. I think I've played every one so far. At least like the Sunday night, Monday night. I don't know what they do for the Sunday afternoon showdown, but yeah, I've started to like one game slates, but I dislike that DraftKings took away the extra points for relievers in the showdown format. So that kind of eliminates sort of the fun of playing showdown over there. I'm sure Yahoo will have some pretty cool MLB contests for the sizable slates. We're of course presented to you by Yahoo. They are running a 400K baller for week 4, $10 entry fee, pretty low management fee, just 10%, not the standard 15, 16% you're going to see elsewhere. Flat payout structure, 50K to first, 30K to second, 20K to third, 10K to fourth. Top 10, I'll win 5K or more off your $10 entry fee. So pretty good deal over on Yahoo. It has been overlaying. Not sure if that's going to be the case, but even if it doesn't, you're going to get lower management fees than what you're going to see elsewhere. They've got $1 10 max. They've got $7 10 max. They've got something for basically everyone at every price point. Let's take a quick look at lineup study. We've already done this once before, but we'll just summarize what we saw on the Friday slate. Giant Squid took it down the 555 with a 6-man, technically, White Sox stack, including Dylan Cease. We were all on Dylan Cease, even after Josh called him what did he say? He was awful
A
or something like that?
washed up 27-year-old or something like that.
He was referring to Dylan Covey. So funny moment there on the strategy show if you guys were watching that. Cease went out there and pitched the exact opposite of what Dylan Covey would do. 27
Yeah.
points, made for an excellent pairing with DeGrom, and then the cheap White Sox stack was what you kind of needed to compete in some DFS tournaments this night, at least on DraftKings. Nothing super interesting on the Saturday slate. Let's see. I didn't even look at the contests yesterday. Yeah, they were pretty small, so nothing really constructive about looking at a 15K prize pool over on DraftKings. Do a lot of pros even play on Sundays? I doubt it, right?
Um, I mean, I would think that's pretty much all that plays on Sunday.
Let's see. Let's see if I recognize any of these names. I don't, man, I don't recognize a lot. And you just look at the people who maxed out this tournament. It was a 35 max. I mean, a couple guys play MLB. It looks like, but none of like the big names. I don't think Alex does. Tom, like Brick. I don't see him in here. So they just focus on NFL, and I can't really blame them.
Yeah.
If that's
I guess yeah. So it was the biggest tournament on DraftKings yesterday. Really 3K, like the
yeah,
$15 was 3K to
yeah.
first.
I sorted by prize
No,
pool.
then yeah, waste of time.
Yeah, that they don't even get out of bed for that. That's nothing. But we do have some pretty sizable contests today. Yahoo is rolling out their $3 10 max, 200 bucks to first, $15 10 max. Wait, is this a 10 max actually? I should probably click on that. Yeah, it is a 10 max. Can't have over 3% of the entry fees, so they're good there. 1,500 bucks to first, you can 10x your money in that $15 contest. Feel free to go check out Yahoo Build the Bankroll for the NFL contests. They have been overlaying on the Thursday to Monday, so keep an eye out for those when Thursday comes along. I'll make sure to mention those every time I'm on the strategy show so you guys don't forget. Let's get into this 5-gamer. Looks to be pretty straightforward to me, honestly. There's no Coors. There's no teams with massive implied totals. There's a couple clear-cut pitchers. And there's one guy whose price jumps around Blake Snell on basically every site. So I think it should be a pretty easy slate to talk about. We'll see if we can find something interesting in each game. But let's start it out with the Phillies and the Nationals. We've got Zach Eflin going up against Patrick Corbin. Eflin is at 6,800 over on DraftKings. Corbin 11.8, most expensive pitcher on the slate, and I can't really argue with it here. 3.8 implied total for the Phillies, 5.3 for the Nats. What do you think of Corbin here? Do you think you'll get to him at almost 12K?
I think the price tag is a little prohibitive. He's obviously a really good pitcher, and he's got a decent matchup against Philly, but not tons of strikeouts. A lot of righties in the lineup for Philadelphia. There's a good chance that the entire lineup, with the exception of Bryce Harper, is right-handed. And while Corbin is perfectly fine against righties, you do get a pretty sizable drop-off in his strikeout numbers against righties compared to lefties. So you obviously prefer him facing more lefties. At that salary, you really just would want him in like a perfect matchup, and I don't think you really get that here. So on one hand, it's a 5-game slate where there's nothing really at the top. So if you have the leftover money, by all means, just go ahead and roster Corbin. He's one of the best pitchers on the slate, but it's just not a particularly appealing price point.
Yeah, it's I think if I'm playing a cash game tonight, I probably get to Corbin because the pricing, like there's not like an expensive team you have to have a piece of tonight. It's just kind of middling teams, and the team with the highest implied total actually is Toronto, and they're pretty affordable. So we'll talk about that game next. But I think you can fit Corbin in your cash lineup if you go with like a Mats or someone as your SP2 on DK. But for tournaments, you like to pay up for bats oftentimes, and he's going to be difficult to get to at 11.8. We do have ownership. Wow, that is hefty for Steven Matz. Corbin is the second highest owned pitcher right now at 32%. So it looks like we anticipate people will get there, but not as much as Steven Matz. So that's going to be an interesting one to talk about. It's still a sizable slate. A 50+% owned pitcher makes it, I think, a little bit more fun depending on where you're at. Eflin against the Nats bats. Do you have any interest in Eflin? And then who are your favorite Nats bats against him?
Yeah, I really don't like taking pitchers against the Nats. There's not a lot of strikeouts in this lineup and a lot of good hitters. One positive for Eflin is that it is a right-handed heavy lineup for Washington. And this year, in terms of his ability to limit production, he's had pretty drastic splits. The problem is that even against righties, he's only struck out 19.3%. So it's not like a Tyler Mahle type pitcher where he's striking out 26% of righties and 17% of lefties or something like that. He's below average in against both handedness in terms of strikeouts. It's just that against righties, he's held them to a 115 expected ISO. Against lefties, it's 213. So maybe he does a decent job of limiting Washington here, but still just don't see the strikeout upside for him. And I still think.
Yeah, I think Soto, you mentioned the huge splits there for power for Eflin. Soto makes for one of my favorite plays on the slate. I don't think DK priced him up enough. He's at 5,100. He would be a guy I would look to get to if I'm hand building or building a cash lineup. I know it's a little bit expensive, but $24 on Yahoo. All the pitching is pretty cheap over there as well. No pitcher above $48 today, and that is Corbin. So you can make it work, I think, on every site. Do you like the Nats stack against Eflin, or a few too many righties in here for you?
Yeah, I don't think it's ideal because they have so many righties, but at the same time, Turner gives you a ton of upside. Rendon's a really good hitter. Kendrick's a really good hitter. There's still a high ceiling for this lineup, and you're still talking about a pitcher that doesn't get strikeouts. So you're gonna have guys putting the ball in play, and with the way the ball flies now, like that is just such an advantage. If you have a team that is going to be consistently hitting the ball. So I do still like Washington. I would prefer them if they had, if like Rendon and Kendrick had their same numbers and hit left-handed, it would be better, but I still like how it is.
Yeah, it looks like Howie Kendrick finally getting a chance to play almost every day. Was there an injury, or why is he all of a sudden playing when he hadn't been playing forever?
I don't know if Matt Adams is banged up maybe, or if Dave Martinez finally just stopped being stupid.
Yeah, it seems like he always does well when he plays, but he just goes away for like weeks at a time or gets like one at bat in pinch hit situations. It's weird.
Yeah, his manager's under the impression that he's a lefty platoon specialist.
Oh, really? Well, probably don't use analytics then, or even go on Fangraphs. All right, let's go to Baltimore and Toronto. We've got Chandler Shepard going up against Clay Buchholz. $6,400 for Shepard, $4,800 for Buchholz, 4.4 implied total for Baltimore, and 5.8 for Toronto, the highest on the slate. And they look to be pretty appealing bats here. Do you know anything about Shepard? Is this a spot where you could get away with using him at 6,400? And then same goes for Buchholz. He's a $4,800 favorite. Can you make a case for either pitcher?
Not really. If Shepard were cheaper, I could, but he's nothing special. He's 27. This is his first year pitching in the major leagues at all. He's made 3 appearances now for the Orioles. 2 out of the bullpen, 1 as a starter last game. Was pulled pretty early in that game too. Pitched reasonably well, but there's nothing that points to him being a decent pitcher. And now you have this Toronto lineup with tons of power in it in the park. That's actually been the best park for home runs in baseball this season. So a pretty scary spot for Shepard, and he's not even the minimum price. Buchholz, not good either, but Baltimore obviously doesn't have quite as much power in their lineup as Toronto does. Buchholz is essentially the minimum price at 4,800 on DraftKings. So I can see getting to him just because of the salary. But at the same time, we have him projected for 27% ownership right now. He's not a good pitcher, and Baltimore's not the worst matchup right now. I mean, they have Austin Hayes up, they have DJ Stewart up. It's not a terrible lineup. So I think he's a good point per dollar option, but I wouldn't be super excited about getting lots of him, assuming he's going to be popular.
Yeah, man, you mentioned it. Buchholz at almost 30% ownership. I know it's a 5-game slate. It's pretty short. And I always like to play cheap pitchers, but a guy who has essentially no strikeout upside that's getting owned like that. I mean, there's clearly 5 pitchers tonight that are getting ownership on DraftKings right now, the way we have it broken down. Matz, Corbin, Smith, Wainwright, Buchholz, and then 5 guys that just aren't at all. So I think, man, depending on what we think of these other guys, like I would just look to Shepard at 5%, maybe get some reverse correlation on the field. It sounds like a good idea right now. I don't know how it's going to work in lineup construction if you just need the extra $1,600 down to Buchholz or what. But yeah, that's really unappealing to me, the 27% on Buchholz. So
I mean, here's the thing with Buchholz for me. Like you mentioned the lack of strikeout upside and him getting ownership. Like he struck out 13.6% of hitters with a 5.33 Sierra this year. But on top of that, what's the real necessity to go this cheap a pitcher on this slate? You don't have cores. You don't even have like a Texas team. The only really good hitter spark on this slate, at least for power, is Toronto, where everyone's cheap because they play for the Blue Jays or the Orioles. And then it's not like you have like a Garrett Cole either. You have Patrick Corbin, who's expensive in an okay matchup. And other than that, there's no pitching to pay off for because Blake Snell is going to throw 3 to 4 innings at 10K. So you're not going there. It's just like, what's the point of having Buchholz?
yeah, so I'm trying to just on the lineup builder, and you guys can get this with a premium membership or a platinum membership, I should call it. We also have express packages starting at $395 per week. The promo code is MLB strategy for 50% off any monthly package. If you look at the Osmo.com lineup builder here, if you just start your lineup with Corbin and Buchholz, it's 41.75 remaining on DraftKings, which is nice, but it's like you can punt a couple spots, and it's not like we have Boston priced up and in a fantastic spot. They're going up against Blake Snell. The Mets aren't in a great hitting park. And they're going up against a good pitcher in Caleb Smith, and they're not even that expensive. You go to the Arizona game, no hitters, like no team is expensive. There's no cores. I agree with you. I just don't see the need to spend way down with Buchholz if he's going to be popular like this.
Right. Yeah, like I could see his ownership dropping, and even then, I wouldn't really like him. Just the way this slate shakes out, if you're rostering Buchholz, you actually need him to be one of the top scoring pitchers on the slate. It's not a slate where you're getting a ton of extra value just saving money at pitcher. So that's kind of my issue with him because I don't expect him to be one of the top scorers on the slate.
Yeah, like if you go, I don't even know, if you go Buchholz and Matz, you're gonna have a tough time spending all of your salary, and
Right.
or you're just gonna end up playing the same guys as everyone else. You could stack whoever you want when you do that, but there's gonna be some cheap guys that perform well that you might need in your stacks, and then that might be able to get you up to Corbin, who has a really good chance of being the top raw point pitcher, even if he's not going to grade out well on a value basis.
Like if you pair Corbin and Matz on DraftKings, you have 38.25 per position. That's obviously not a lot, but on this particular slate, it's probably not that difficult to make decent lineups with that. Um, and obviously, you could go to like someone between Matz and Buchholz, although there's not much there. But if you go Corbin Buchholz, you have 41.75 per position. But like you said, if you go Matz, you're at 4,700. Like, what are you doing with all that money?
Yeah, exactly. Glad we're on the same page here. Man, Alfaro's 3,400. I was gonna say you got a punt catcher you could just save some salary with, but I don't know. We'll see. Once I start building lineups, maybe I'll understand the Buchholz stuff more. But right now, that's not a place I really want to be at all. If you had to choose a couple of Baltimore hitters against Buchholz for leverage, who would it be?
Austin Hayes, Buchholz, even last year when he did a decent job for Arizona, he was giving up more power to righties. Hayes is one of the top hitting prospects in the Orioles system, and he's probably going to be batting somewhere around fifth or sixth in the order. He's 4K on DraftKings, but I think that's still pretty reasonable. And then DJ Stewart is 3,200, which is just a really good salary.
Is Stewart expected to be in the lineup? Oh yeah, he is. Expected to bat sixth, so we'll get that updated when the lineups get updated. Anything else you want to talk about in this game? Do you agree with the ownership on Toronto bats here against Shepard?
Yeah, I think Toronto's in a great spot. Shepard just isn't very good. He's just a body out there throwing some pitches for the Orioles until the season ends. And Toronto, it's pretty crazy for how bad of a team they are. They actually, I think, have the fifth worst record in baseball. But they have so much power on this team. Like, there are 11 guys that have an ISO above 180 against right-handed pitching this season on the Blue Jays. You probably will get 8 of them in this lineup, and then you'll get Derek Fisher, who is a pretty decent prospect, hitting ninth. So top to bottom, there's just a lot of upside for Toronto. The top of the order is a little expensive with Bichette and Biggio, but pretty inexpensive from that point on. So I think Toronto's in a great spot.
Yeah, love Toronto bats. Hard not to. Highest implied total on the slate. Maybe comes in a little bit over-owned, but I would imagine they're going to have a really excellent value rating, at least on DraftKings. On Yahoo, some of the guys are way too cheap. Bichette at $15. That's one of your better values on the slate. Vlad Guerrero's at 14. Smoke at 11. Tellez, even if he's batting eighth, that's a nice first base option at $11 as well. Min salary, Derek Fisher, batting ninth. So you can make the Blue Jays stack work on DraftKings or Yahoo. Nothing really bad to say about it. Let's go to the Red Sox and the Rays. Yuli Chassin going up against Blake Snell. $35 Blake Snell on Yahoo. 3.6 implied total here for the Red Sox. 5 flat for the Rays. How deep do we think Snell can go here is the question. Is he going to be
So
usable?
the report, it looks like they want him to go 3 to 4 innings. He threw 26 pitches and in 2 innings his first time back. So, my guess is that 3 to 4 is probably correct.
That's pretty disappointing. So 10-3 on DraftKings, he's essentially out of the picture. I think he's still probably fringe playable on Yahoo just because of how cheap he is and just how not good the pitching slate is. Do you think you could play him for $35 on Yahoo, like even if you cap him at 4 innings?
I wouldn't be thrilled with it, but the fact that Matz is $40. Like, I'd rather roster Matz, but he at least he is cheaper than Matz. I'd rather roster Wainwright at 36 than Snell. It's tough because the ceiling is so capped. So if you roster him, you're basically hoping that he gives you a perfect 3 or 4 innings, and then like every other pitcher on the slate implodes.
Yeah, you make a good point. I thought I was going to be able to play Snell at $35. Maybe I still will, But with Matz sitting there for an extra 5 and Smith for 7 more, probably doesn't make all that much sense to play Snell when he's going to be capped like this. That makes it difficult for the Red Sox bats though too, because you're going to get a bunch of relievers after Snell's first few innings, and it's not like Snell's a good matchup anyways. So you got some cheap prices on the Red Sox. Are their bats appealing to you at all on DraftKings?
Not really. They only have a 3.6 implied run total. They're in Tropicana. They're facing, their first at bat, maybe for the top of the order. Their second at bat as well will be against Snell, which isn't good. And then, like you said, it's just going to be a bunch of relievers coming in. We're in September, so there's no shortage of arms in the bullpen. And we know Tampa has a bunch of good relievers. It's a great pitcher's park. It's just not a particularly appealing spot for me.
Yeah, me either. How deep do you think Chacin could go? Pulling up his game logs right now. Went 72 pitches in his last outing. That was 5 days ago, so he's fully rested. Only went 2 2.2 innings each of his last 2 outings. So I don't know if it's an innings thing or a pitch limit or what. If it is a pitch limit, I suppose he could go 80 plus pitches. The question is, do the Red Sox even want him to go that deep? I guess they're out of contention, so it doesn't really matter. Do you think it's just a situation where they're going to try to get him to eat innings here and he can go 80 plus pitches?
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of that, because you can read that, like you said, you can read it 2 different ways. One, he went from 48 pitches to 72 pitches, but at the same time, he threw the exact same 2 2/3. So are they just looking for 3 innings out of Chacin, no matter how many pitches he throws? Or if he were to, by some miracle, throw 3 efficient innings and be at 40 pitches, is he going to be allowed to go out for, the 4th or the 5th?
Yeah.
So I think that on this slate, you can at least take a chance on that, because he is, the absolute minimum on Yahoo at $25. He's only 5,200 on DraftKings, getting much less ownership than Buchholz. So I don't mind taking that chance, because I don't know the answer. And there's uncertainty. Pitch well and still get pulled, there's still a pretty decent chance that he has a better start than Buchholz at the same price point. And if the Red Sox are like, hey, you're pitching well, go give us, another inning or 2, then obviously he's a decent point per dollar option. So I don't think he's a good pitcher at all, but the park's nice and the ownership is appealing on a slate where there's just nothing really to like at the bottom tier of pitching.
Yeah, if you just look at K rate, compare him to Buchholz, he's at 21.1%. Buchholz at 13.6%, 7.5% higher for Chacin. I don't know. Buchholz is probably in a better matchup, I suppose, but if Chacin can give you 4 or 5 innings, there's a possibility that he gets you a strikeout each inning. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And it's a good park. I know Chacin is bad, but higher K percentage than I would have expected just thinking about Jhoulys Chacin. So hopefully we get some clarity on this situation. And even if we do, I'm probably still going to have some Tampa bats. Joey Wendell is leading off for 3,500. Outside of him, do you see anyone that sticks out to you from a value or just good matchup perspective here?
I like the matchup for the lefties. So, Austin Meadows is, I think, a spot you could pay up to be contrarian. 5,500 on DraftKings is clearly really expensive in the context of the slate, but it is a good spot for him. Brandon Lau is back. Nate Lowe is in the lineup. But yeah, I'm with you. Joey Wendell stands out as the top value here.
No one in this game getting above 13% ownership, hitting or pitching. Betts at 13%. He's going to come up in crunches. I don't know how I feel about it, though, like I said, because he's going to go up against Snell and then Tampa bullpen in a bad park. I'd probably be looking to get away just because of the low total, but you're getting a sub 5K Mookie Betts. You're getting a $4,200 JD. It's going to be tough to avoid. So yeah. I'm not sure exactly where I'm at on those 2 guys specifically. I think on the Red Sox stack, I'm probably out on them for tonight, but just looking at those 2 prices, it seems almost too good to be true over on DraftKings.
Yeah, it is really appealing pricing. You also get that $2,800 Sam Travis, who does come with plenty of pinch hit risk when Snell comes out of the game. But if Boston were to just not get ownership, I guess they would become appealing because you could stack them with 2 pretty good pitchers. Mm-hmm. But assuming they're going to get some ownership just because of how cheap they are, I'd be out.
Yeah, Betts and JD in double digits right now, 13 and 11%. No one else getting really any love for Boston right now. Some love on the Tampa side, but nothing crazy. Meadows is at 12% ownership on DraftKings at 5,500. That's a little bit shocking. I thought he would just be overlooked because of the pitchers on this slate, because people want to get up to Corbin, but maybe not. Maybe Meadows is going to be a more popular play on this slate. Miami and the New York Mets. We've got Caleb Smith going up against Steven Matz. 3.4 implied total for the Marlins. Nothing new there. 5.2 implied total for the Mets. We got to talk about Steven Matz, because right now his ownership on DraftKings in our first run, and of course this is going to change some throughout the day, but right now Matz is at 56% ownership on DraftKings. Looking at FanDuel, he is above 30 at 31%. Looking at Yahoo, he is 60% owned at $38. What do you do here with Steven Matz against the Marlins?
I think you just roster him. Obviously, we prefer righties against the Marlins because of how many right-handed hitters are in their lineup, but the mid-tier pitching is just so weak on this slate, and Matz isn't a great pitcher, but he's not bad either. Against righties this year, 22.9% strikeout percentage, 315 expected WOBA, 177 expected ISO. Not the best strikeout matchup, assuming that you're going to get Rojas, Castro, Ramirez, Martin Prado in this lineup. But, again, it's just he grades out so much better than every pitcher around him. I think that you could make an argument to pivot to like an Adam Wainwright, but even he's getting ownership. So it's not like you're getting a huge discount there. It's like 2-1. So I think probably just rostering Matz and being different somewhere else.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a tough number to get behind at 56%. When you consider that he's almost twice as owned as the next most popular pitcher on tonight's slate. But Wainwright, like you mentioned, is also getting ownership. I prefer him quite a bit more over Wainwright. So I don't even know if that ownership gap is really worth it for me to start getting off of Matz. I would think he's going to come down a little bit, maybe under 50%. And if he does, I'll probably be over the field. But I was thinking about half of my lineups would have Matz. I don't think he's the guy I'm going to make a huge stand on unless we see an astronomical projection from Alex. It is a good spot, but you mentioned all the righties in the lineup. I don't know. I mean, I'm probably going to end up with a lot of Steven Matz. So we will see. Don't think I'm
the reason I think that I'll get to a lot is he's so clearly like the best pitcher in that price range, I think. And he's cheap enough where, let's say he doesn't rack up a lot of strikeouts, as long as he doesn't give up like 4 runs or something, he's going to give you a serviceable score. It's really, really difficult for Matz to put up a score that actually hurts you at his salary spot.
Yeah, that's a good point. Why is he cheaper than Wainwright here? Why?
I mean, I think Wainwright's pretty good, but the matchup is obviously better for Matz.
Yeah, he's in the same price range as Eflin on DK. He's way cheaper than Smith. And I love Caleb Smith, but it would be hard to prioritize him over Steven Matz with that price gap. $38 or I'm sorry, $40 on Yahoo for Matz. Hard not to like that. I think he's a clear cash game pitcher. I think he's cash game viable on FanDuel, depending on what your build is. It's probably between him and Corbin over there, but I think he's a cash lock, regardless of the site. 2 pitcher sites at least. Any bats you like in this game on the Marlins side? If you're looking to get leverage, would it be with like some power guys? Would it be with Castro or Alfaro, just trying to get a 2-run home run or something?
Yeah, I mean, it would be with power guys, but good luck finding them on the Marlins. But yeah, I think Alfaro probably is my favorite. He's most likely going to be hitting cleanup. He's a cheap catcher. Matz does struggle a bit with right-handed power, so I think you could go there. I think anyone towards the top of that order, if you're not rostering Matz, is perfectly fine. But again, Matz is my priority in that matchup.
Caleb Smith on the other side, 9,200 against the Mets here. 5.2 implied total for Miami. Not a lot of respect shown to Caleb Smith, and a $9,200 price tag. Looking at ownership projections right now, Smith is still getting 28% ownership with that implied total against him. I'm going to have a hard time getting to him. And like I said, I love Caleb Smith, but the Mets just aren't that good of a matchup. What do you think about Smith?
I love the Mets.
You love the Mets stack?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, talk about the Mets.
So Caleb Smith, like he has good strikeout stuff, but he doesn't go deep in the games. He does walk some guys and he does give up power, particularly to right-handed hitters. He's benefited a lot this season from pitching in Miami. Outside of Miami, he's allowed 2.68 home runs per nine to right-handed hitters. Overall, he's allowed 2.54 home runs per nine outside of Miami compared to 1.23 at home. So you get a good home run spot. You get a pitcher that isn't likely to go too deep, and he has a terrible bullpen behind him. And you also have good hitters in this lineup. You know, since the start of last season against left-handed pitching, Wilson Ramos has a 150 WRC plus. Alonso's at 143. Nimmo, if he's in the lineup, is at 137. McNeil's at 129. Davis 118. Rosario 116. Conforto 105. Cano 104. Todd Frazier's at 98, but has a 189 ISO. There's a lot of power, a lot of good hitters in this lineup, and I think maybe because of the respect that people give to Caleb Smith, they go a little bit underowned compared to teams like the Blue Jays. I really like the Mets.
You make a good case for him. I mean, I like especially the individual hitters, Alonso and Ramos. You mentioned Frazier, pretty good spot for a 7-hole hitter at 4,100. I think I can get behind a Mets stack, especially if they roll out what I think is the correct lineup. Rosario, Davis up there. No problem playing McNeil lefty, especially in a stack. So yeah, I think the Mets are pretty appealing tonight, especially with let's see, the tied for third highest owned implied total tonight. Let me take a look at their hitter ownership.
Their projected ownership right now is pretty high on some guys. On DraftKings, Ramos 23%, Alonso 20, Davis 19, Rosario 15, Cano 12. But you'll still be able to get like Jeff McNeil if you go lefty. Like I think McNeil will be in the lineup, and I think that maybe you get one other lefty in there, whether it's Nimmo or Conforto. But I think that going to those guys probably gives you a lower owned guy. And with it being a 5-game slate, even the ownership on guys like Rosario really isn't crazy.
Brandon in YouTube chat says winds blowing out to center 15 to 20 miles per hour in the Mets Marlins game. I'm seeing it blowing a little bit out, more side to side, like maybe shading towards right field, but that's also something to keep an eye on. But that'll be reflected in the implied total. If it looks like there's going to be wind blowing straight out, that would obviously make it a better spot for hitting on both sides of this game. But
I'm seeing winds out to center, gusts up to 15 to 20.
You're seeing it straight out to center? All right, cool. Well, hopefully for our Mets stacks. Let's go to the last game of the night. Short slate here. This is the 5th and final game. Cardinals and the Diamondbacks. Adam Wainwright going up against Alex Young. Wainwright 8,100, Young 8,500. Couple of mid-tier options on DraftKings. 5 implied total for the Cardinals, 4.1 for the D-backs. It's going to be around 80 degrees. I think the roof is going to be open in Arizona. I think especially with these implied totals being pretty favorable.
Roof's open.
It's going to be open?
Yep.
Awesome. Wainwright at 8,100, you said.
Actually, I just completely made that up. It doesn't say. But
right, well,
it's like 80 degrees, so I assume it's open.
Yeah. Pretty mild weather in Arizona. 8,100 for Wainwright. Is he your second favorite option behind Matz tonight?
I mean, Corbin's my second favorite option just because of the projected points,
Sure.
But Wainwright's third. The Diamondbacks don't strike out a ton, but the park's decent even if the roof's open for pitching, and the lineup really just isn't that good. I wish that there were more righties, or I hope that Arizona just runs out a lineup that for some reason has an extra righty or two, because I think that benefits Wainwright. But overall, he's just a pretty decent arm. He's reasonably priced. There's not a whole lot to like around him outside of Steven Matz. So yeah, I like Wainwright.
Yeah, I can see getting him to some Wainwright Matz pairings in tournaments, especially, and getting away from Corbin, saving some money over there. Because you're going to be, I mean, it is somewhat restrictive playing Corbin with Matz, and Wainwright with Matz gives you two solid options in that range and saves you some salary, opens up more with what you could do. Maybe you could stack a team like the Nationals or someone a little bit more expensive with those two guys. Yeah, I think I agree with Wainwright. I mean, just under 21% K percentage on the year. I didn't realize how little power he's giving up under a home run per 9 on the season. So a lot better than what I expected him to be coming into the season. And it's not like it's a terrible spot against Arizona. I'm seeing, 4 righties in the bottom of the order: Walker, Jones, Ahmed, and Kelly, plus the pitcher spot. So Arizona, not a team I love targeting, but I think I'll make an exception on this slate with Wainwright at a reasonable price. What about Alex Jones, Alex Young on the other side, $8,500, $34 on Yahoo, going up against the Cardinals with the 5 implied total. Is he piquing your interest at all?
He's been surprisingly decent against righties this year. He's struck out 21.6%. He's held them to a 308 expected WOBA, 159 expected ISO. But I still just think it's a really tough spot here. You have probably an entirely right-handed lineup with the exception of Matt Carpenter. And there's just a lot of, even though the Cardinals as a whole have been disappointing this year, you still have track records on guys like Goldschmidt, Ozuna, Molina, DeJong, Carpenter. Edman's been fine. Fowler's whatever at the top of the order. Bader has some power. It's just not an easy matchup. And if Young were priced down like 7,200 or something around Steven Matz, then I think it would start to be an interesting pivot. But the fact that he's more expensive than Matz, he's more expensive than Wainwright, it's just really tough for me unless you're just really trying to get off the board with pitcher.
Yeah. And if you guys, we've gotten some questions in chat lately about like pinch hit risks. Let's see, the Cardinals are up 3 games in the division. So if you're thinking about playing Cardinals bats, I think you are pretty safe as far as them getting their normal opportunities outside of an injury, because they still have to put the nail in the coffin against Milwaukee. Did they sweep the Cubs this weekend? I didn't pay attention at all, but I know I'm pretty sure they had a series against the Cubs, and they were like 2 games or 3 games back, and the Cubs.
I'm assuming they won yesterday because I saw clips about Yu Darvish throwing everything he owned up against his locker after the game.
Yeah, Cardinals won yesterday. Let's see. Yeah, I think they did sweep because they blew a 9th inning lead on Friday and Saturday, and then lost yesterday after Darvish pitched pretty well. So good stuff.
In general, as far as sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll say in general, as far as like figuring out pinch hit risk. So this time of year, any team, if they have like a big lead in the 7th inning or something, there's pinch hit risk for any team because they just have so many bodies. But in general, when you're thinking about pinch hit risk, there's obviously a little bit more for National League teams because of double switches, and they have the bodies to do that whenever they want. But you want to just kind of look through the lineup, and like the Cardinals here, they're facing a lefty, but if the Diamondbacks were to bring in a righty, they're not pinch hitting for any of Goldschmidt, Ozuna, Molina, or DeJong because they're all too good. Fowler and Edman are switch hitters, and Carpenter is a lefty. So none of those guys really have pinch hit risk outside of the double switch or blowout situations. Where you want to really pay attention to pinch hit risk is like if you look at Boston, you have Sam Travis sitting in the middle of the order. If they bring in a righty, he very easily could just be out of the game. Same goes for like a Chris Owings. So you kind of just want to pay attention to there's more pinch hit risk for guys that are starting strictly because of the platoon advantage.
Yeah, so like the old Kike Hernandez thing, or like Chad Pinder when they were pinch hitting for him a lot,
right,
when he could just hit lefties type of thing.
Yeah, Juan Lagares on the Mets potentially if he were to start. If he starts and the left-handed Mets outfielders don't, there's a really good chance that if it's a competitive game, one of them pitch hits for him. That chance they get.
Yeah, I like it. Any Arizona hitters you want to mention against Wainwright before we get out of here?
I think Josh Rojas is a good value. Wainwright hasn't been bad against lefties, but worse against lefties than righties. Rojas is cheap, probably batting second. Escobar's priced down, so is Jake Lamb. So none of these guys are like my favorite plays. I do think that Rojas and Lamb are good values, and Escobar is a better hitter than his salary.
Arizona on Yahoo is incredibly cheap. They have a $15 Christian Walker, $16 Eduardo Escobar, and then everyone else in the lineup is $9 or less. Lamb, Jones, and Rojas are all flat min. So they're pretty interesting on Yahoo just from a value perspective. I know it's not a great spot against Wainwright, but that'd be a team I'd look to if I'm trying to get a Corbin and Matt's pairing or something like that and looking to save some money. Anything else in this game? Anything else on the slate you want to mention?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's a 5 game slate, so especially with pitching like this, if you're playing large field tournaments, it's not the worst. Like if your lineup makes you uncomfortable, it's not the worst thing in the world. Just make sure that it makes sense. Make sure that you're giving yourself a path to win. Be contrarian somewhere. You don't have to be contrarian everywhere. Just ownership, I guess, plays a little bit bigger role on sites like this.
Yeah, I'll be looking to leverage ownership. You can get ownership projections, promo code MLB Strategy for 50% off your first month of any premium package. That would help us out if you use that promo code when you sign up. Feel free to give us a like on your way out. It does help us keep the lights on, as Chris Spags would say. Let's see. What else do we have going on for the rest of the day? NFL strategy show after this. It's going to be Manny Laura and Laffy reviewing the Week 3 slate. I'm not sure if either of those guys had big days, but they'll be talking about what they did right, what they did wrong, what they think the mistakes were that were made by the field. And yeah, it's actually been a pretty interesting show. I've been watching it the first couple weeks. Manny's really good at breaking down the optimizer talk of everything and just the nuances of how an optimizer works. So that's going to be a really informative show. They have great chemistry as well. So they do shows all the time together on Sirius, on Osmo Radio. So tune into that one at 11 Eastern. We will have the deeper dive with Adam and Laffy tonight, live before lock, Josh Engelman and myself. Stop me if you've heard that combo before lately. Let's see. You will have the deep dive out, right, Adam?
Yep, with the 2 good pitchers on the slate.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a pretty quick write-up for you. You'll be able to enjoy some of your day. Let's see, what else? Go play on Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Check out these football contests for Week 3 if you're not getting in the baseball ones tonight. Low management fees than you're going to catch elsewhere, namely DraftKings and FanDuel. 12.3% on this the $3 entry fee tonight. That looks like my favorite tournament. 10 max, not competing against a bunch of pros, no CSV edit to speak of yet, at least on Yahoo. Thank you to Yahoo for sponsoring us. And let's see, I've got cheat sheets out. Spotlight Pitchers just dropped. I just got the notification that Josh put that out. Spotlight Hitters is out. Go read Emacs Showdown article for tonight. A real barn burner between the Chicago Bears and Adam's team. So should be good. Day of content for the rest of the day. Oh, NFL Live Before Lock. Don't forget about this. If you're playing Showdown, which I'm playing for sure, Adam sounded like he had some interest in playing Showdown. You're going to want to catch the Showdown Live Before Lock with Nolan Kelly and Emac once again. So pretty cool stuff. Thanks for joining, guys, and we will see you later.